You know that feeling, right? When you're stuck doing the same mind-numbing task over and over again. Well, in programming, that's not just boring. It's a massive red flag. Today, we're going to talk about the very first tool every programmer learns to break that cycle and start automating their work, the for loop. Just take a look at this classic 7 times table. Now, imagine your job is to write a program that prints this out. Sure, you could write one line of code for 7 times 1, another for 7 times 2, and just keep going. It'd work, but man, would that be tedious? And what if your boss comes back and says, "Great, now do it up to 1,000?" Yeah, that's when doing it by hand just completely falls apart. And that right there brings us to the core issue, what we call the repetition problem. For a programmer, repeating code isn't just boring, it's really inefficient. Every extra line you write is another chance to make a typo, another thing you have to maintain later, and it just makes your whole program bloated and hard to read. Because here's the secret. Good programming is all about being smart and, well, lazy. So, how do we solve this problem of doing the same thing again and again? Well, this is where our hero comes in, the for loop. Think of it like your secret weapon. It's a simple, elegant instruction that tells the computer, hey, do this thing, then do it again, and keep on doing it until I tell you to stop. It's how we can turn hundreds of lines of code into just 3 or 4. So what is a loop at its absolute core? It's what we call a repetition structure. It's basically a block of code that the computer will run over and over and over again. But, and this is the most important part, it doesn't just run forever. That would be chaos. It only runs as long as a specific condition we set stays true. The moment that condition becomes false, the loop stops. Now, it's pretty useful to know that there are generally 2 main flavors of loops. You've got your conditional loops, which just keep going until something changes, like, waiting for a user to finally type the word quit. But our focus today is on the other kind, the counter-controlled loop. This is for when you know exactly how many times you want to do something. Printing a times table 10 times? Yeah, that is the perfect job for a for loop. Okay, so how does this thing actually work? I know the syntax, the way it's written, might look a little intimidating at first, but I promise you it's actually super simple. We can understand the entire structure just by answering 3 really simple questions. All right, here it is, the anatomy of a for loop. You can see it's got 3 main parts sitting inside those parentheses: initialization, condition, and updation. Now, those are the official technical terms, but don't get hung up on them. We're about to translate them into something way easier to remember. Okay, this slide right here, this is the key to everything. Seriously. Forget the jargon. Every single for loop, no matter how complicated it looks, is just answering these 3 questions. Number 1, where do we start? Number 2, when do we stop? And number 3, how do we get to the next step? Let's see this in action with some actual code. Okay, let's look at this real example of a for loop. Our first question is, where do we start? Well, that's handled by this very first part, int j equals 0. All this means is we're creating a temporary counter. The int just means it's a whole number. We're calling it j, and we're setting its starting value to 0. Simple as that. We're starting our count at 0. Now, looking at that exact same line of code, we ask our second question, when do we stop? That's the job of the middle part, the condition, j less than 10. This is the rule. The computer checks this rule before every single repetition. As long as our counter j is less than 10, the loop keeps on chugging. The second that j becomes 10, the condition is now false and the loop stops cold. And finally, question 3, how do we get from our start of 0 all the way to our stopping point? We have to take a step forward, right? That's what the very last part does, the update expression, j++. This is just a really common programmer shorthand for add 1 to j. So after every single run-through, the computer automatically adds 1 to our counter, getting us one step closer to the finish line. And this flowchart just illustrates the whole process perfectly. The computer gets to the loop, and the first thing it does is check the condition. Is it true? Yes? Okay, it runs whatever code is inside the loop. Then it performs the update. And after that, it goes right back to the top to check the condition all over again. It just keeps doing this cycle until that condition is finally false, and at that point, it just breaks out and moves on to the next part of the program. So, you've totally mastered the basics. You can count from one number to another. But what if I told you that the for loop has some hidden superpowers? It can do way more than just manage one simple little counter. So here's our familiar loop again. It sets up one counter, it has one condition, and it updates that one counter. It's simple and it's effective. But now, let's see what else this thing can do.
Now check this out. In a single for loop, we can actually initialize two different variables, I and j, and then look at the update step. We're adding 1 to I, but we're adding 2 to j, all at the same time. So why is this so cool? Well, imagine creating complex patterns, or maybe an animation where one object moves across the screen while another fades in at a totally different speed. This is how you do it. One loop, two counters, moving in perfect sync. Now that's efficiency.
Okay, so now that we know how to start a loop, and more importantly, how to stop a loop, let's talk about what happens when you kind of forget to tell it how to stop. This is a rite of passage for every new programmer, so just think of this as a friendly little warning. This is the infinite loop, and what's wild is just how easy it is to create one. Remember those three parts, the start, stop, and update? They're all technically optional. If you just leave out the stop condition, the computer just assumes the condition is always true. And if it's always true, well, it never, ever stops. So what happens when you accidentally create one of these? Your program will probably freeze, it might even crash your computer, and your face will likely look a little something like this. It happens to every single programmer. But hey, now you know exactly what to watch out for. So, we've gone from the tedious problem of repetition all the way to an elegant solution with the for loop. We've broken it down into its 3 simple questions, and we even got a peek at its superpowers. But this isn't just about writing code, it's really a new way to think, a way to see patterns and just hand off all the grunt work to the machine. Which leaves us with a final thought. Now that you have this tool for automation, what's the first repetitive, tedious task that you would solve with it?